Obviously when somebody challenges somebody's, black identity, I feel a way. And because I understand black identity, so I'm like, all right, no, let me explain this to you about the concept of an Israelite, So I was hanging out with friends yesterday, this Israeli girl that I know, and we were talking about wigs, and she was like, "Oh yeah, there's a bunch of Black Americans here that play basketball, and there's like girls here that play basketball. You should hit them up, They will know how to get like the wig, like the good like American wig, Black American wiggery." So I just kind of said on Twitter, I was like, "Oh, I gotta find the Black Americans in Israel." I wasn't even talking about Black Hebrew Israelites or anything. I was talking about just like girls probably from, I don't know, like Atlanta or Tennessee that are like here playing on some basketball team. And that's all I was talking about. I was talking just about just like general Black Americans, not Black American Hebrew Israelites or anything like that. So this one guy jumps in and he's just like, "Oh yeah, there's a community of 5,000 Black Hebrew Israelites who believe that they are the true descendants of da 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 da, but they only started in 1969 and And I was like, okay, cool, yeah, that's fine, whatever."
Since 1968, the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem have lived in the state of Israel. Guided by their leader, the late Ben-Ami Ben Israel, the group left the United States and, after a brief period in Liberia, settled in Dimona, a city in southern Israel. There, they have lived for more than 50 years, and during that time, the group has battled the state for respect, for recognition, for work visas, and even citizenship. Over time, after intense struggle, the Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, have improved their relationship with the state, and in 2003, the government finally granted them legal citizenship, or some got permanent or temporary residency. Everyone there who was living there got that. Like other Israeli citizens and other American settlers, which they are, the group's children serve in the Israeli military, and the group is now generally celebrated as valuable members of Israeli society rather than the strange vegan cult from Chicago that they were labeled when they first arrived in the 1960s. So the problem is solved, or so they thought. It turns out that not everybody living there was included in the 2003 decision. Instead, some have been living in Israel without any legal status for decades, and although they have applied for residency in order to fix the problem, those requests have now been formally denied. Last week, 46 families received deportation notices from Israel's Population and Immigration Authority. Now, according to the deportation order, all of them must leave the country within 60 days. This includes people who have lived there for decades, and it also includes children who have never lived anywhere else. So why this decision? And why now?
But, obviously when somebody challenges somebody's, Black identity, I feel a way. And because I understand Black identity, so I'm like, all right, no, let me explain this to you about the concept of an Israelite as it pertains to like Pan-Africanism. And just, yeah, and Black jewelry, really. So, you know, I get that everybody has this like contemporary idea of just like this little patch of land, like Palestine or the Levant, Israel, whatever. But most of the like Black Hebrew Israelites and people like that, they're thinking about Israelites as like a grouping of people that were stretching all the way down from like Lebanon down into the kingdom of Kush. That's where all the and Ethiopia, that's where all the Rastafarian Israelitism and the Black Hebrew Israelitism, like most, well, I don't know what Black churches are doing now, but I know that my grandmother and my like Black Christian family, they use the Hebrew Bible, and there's mad slave songs written about the Promised Land and Zion and all that other shit. And we have like all these churches. It's like Zion, Church of Zion, da da da. And yeah, that's what they call themselves. They call themselves Israelites, not because they're like trying to take claim to Israel or whatever. And one of my friends hit me up, and they were just like, going really hard, and I was just like, that's not really what I'm saying. And they were just like, oh well, people have been saying that we have no claim to the land. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's first off, That's not where any. Oh my God, that's not where I was going with that. I wasn't even thinking about that. Like I don't even like know. And it just became like one thing after another, piling up, and the rabbinic debates, and I'm just like, damn, the Jews really like they could really argue, you know. And then some guy jumps in and he's like, oh, well, Ethiopians aren't descendant from the thing. And I'm just like, all right, this is another attack on just like some black identity. And this is kind of just like egging me right now. Like, so I got into the whole thing. I'm just like, honey, everything comes from Africa. Like, like, I know people, I know. But it's true. And y'all know it's true. Everything does come from Africa. I'm not a black Hebrew Israelite. Hold on. I'm not a black Hebrew Israelite, y'all. I'm not gonna come here and be like, oh, I'm the real Jew. No, I never said that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, and I don't agree that they're like the real Jews. And I don't agree that they're like the real Jews. And I don't agree that they're like the real Jews. But if they feel like they have some sort of like spiritual identity to this and it makes them happy and it makes them feel whole and they want to live in Israel and pay taxes and all that, then what's the problem? I mean, like what is the problem? And just like all of the comments about like Ethiopian jewelry and everybody was just like, oh, they're not descendants and all that. That was offensive.
You may have heard of the Ashkenazi Jews from Central and Eastern Europe, or the Mizrahi Jews from the Middle East. But have you heard of the Ethiopian Jews? The Jews of Ethiopia are known as Beta Israel. Most Ethiopian Jews first came to Israel under two major military rescue operations in the 1980s and 90s. They were called Operation Moses and Operation Solomon. In fact, Netflix even released a film called The Red Sea Diving Resort, based specifically on Operation Moses. Under Israeli law of return, every Jew has the right to come to Israel as an immigrant. This is called making aliyah. So the mission of these military operations was to airlift as many Ethiopian Jews to Israel as possible, to help them make aliyah. With Jews facing major persecution in Ethiopia and in the war-torn Sudan at the time, it was no easy task. But thankfully, many of them made it to Israel. And today, there are around 160,000 Ethiopian Jews in the country. They make up 1.7% of Israel's population. It may be a small portion, but their impact on Israeli society is quite large.
Despite the fact that the Ethiopian Jews were cut off geographically from their biblical roots, they maintained a spiritual link to the Holy Land that dates back to the first temple of King Solomon.
For over 2,000 years, the Ethiopian Jews have looked to Jerusalem as the source of their culture and history. Even in Ge'ez, the religious language of the Ethiopians, it is possible to detect the names of their Jewish forefathers. Among the Ethiopians, there is a common belief that they have a common historical origin with the Jews. They call themselves Beta Yisrael, the House of Israel. They believe that a local monarch, the Queen of Sheba, journeyed to the court of King Solomon. From the romance that blossomed between them, a son was born who took the Ark of the Covenant back with him to Ethiopia. Some of the Ethiopian Jews believe that they are descendants of the soldiers Solomon sent to protect his son on the journey. Once members of a proud, courageous monarchy numbering in their hundreds of thousands, they have dwindled by the forces of man and nature to a mere fraction of what they were. They have been reduced to making tools and handicrafts, work despised by their neighbors who call them falashas.
Ashkenazi Jews in the state of Israel are at the top of the hierarchy. Oh, did that surprise you that there's a hierarchy within Israel? Oh, yes. As you all know, Israel is an apartheid state, but not just with the Palestinians, with their own people. The Ashkenazi, the European Jews, are at the top of the chain, right? They're the elite. And then come the Sephardic and the Mizrahi. The browner you are, the more racist the Ashkenazi are towards you. Oh, and I almost forgot the Ethiopian Jews, who are at the bottom of the food chain in Israel. I'm not sure if you've seen the news, but it has just come out that the Israeli government was, unbeknownst to the Ethiopian women, injecting them with birth control so they would not continue to produce Ethiopian Jewish children.
They also have 130,000 Ethiopians. Now, in this case, the Ethiopians are Jewish, so it doesn't really matter. It's a Jewish state, so they should be welcome, right? Well, not exactly. The health ministry has just admitted that they were doing forced sterilization of Ethiopian women, even though they're Jewish, as they were coming into the country. Now, thank God the sterilization is not permanent, but it did last for a long time. In fact, over the last 10 years, the birth rate among Ethiopians in Israel has dropped by 50%. Now, you don't have to speculate as to why. As I just told you, Israel's health minister has admitted they did the program, and in fact, he sent out a note saying not to renew prescriptions for Depo-Provera for women of Ethiopian origin if for any reason there is concern that they might not understand the ramifications of the treatment. I don't think the issue was that they didn't understand the ramifications of the treatment. The issue was as they were coming in, they were told they had to get that shot. Sometimes they were lied to and said, oh yeah, it's a vaccination and it's going to help you with your health.
The Jews who were brought in Israel, most of them are white. Not most of them, almost all of them are white, including me. I was brought in Israel from a country which is called Bulgaria. It's a European country. And I can tell you that in every European country, there are Jews, and there is so-called organization, Jewish Agency, which is trying to take those Jews to Israel. If you track this organization, you can find out that this is not an Israeli organization. This is an American organization. Jewish Agency is an American organization which has the exclusive right to decide who is Jewish and who is not on this planet, and who to be taken to Israel and who's not. Now, if you do research, you will find out that in Africa, in Black Africa, they're looking for Jews only in Ethiopia. They bring Jews only from Ethiopia. And I can tell you by knowing a lot of people, Ethiopian Jews here in Israel, that they're treated very badly, very badly. And many of them commit suicide because they cannot take it. So they come from some place, Ethiopia, they don't have much there, but they live decent life. And when they come here and try to be humiliated and so on, some of them cannot even take it. Now, what I'm trying to say is that why from each white country this Jewish agency is trying to bring Jews, and when it's about Black Africa, they're going to Ethiopia, and this is where they stop. The only one place. Now, because of the same thing, they're trying to do the white supremacy here. They try to bring white guys here and to take the supremacy over Arabs, which are the local citizens, and over blacks, which are so far they're only the Ethiopian Jews. Now, what I'm trying also to say is that another question is why America needs Israel. In Israel there is no oil like in other Middle Eastern countries. There's nothing they can be attracted to. But why do they do all these things? Why do they invest money, bring white people and so on? When they build their system of white supremacy, just like in America, they build in Israel. Why? And I can tell you why. Because the true Jews, according to the Bible, you can check it in the Bible, you can read Job 30:30 and some other places. They have never been white. They have been people of color. And they have not stopped in Ethiopia. They were in Ethiopia, Sudan, and they have settled in West Africa. From West Africa, they have been taken as slaves to America. Brothers and sisters, blacks of America, it's you. You are the true Hebrews. You are the true Hebrews from the Bible. America gonna do everything, gonna invest as much money as it has, gonna fight as much wars as they can, gonna invite as much weapons as they can, just to hide this away from you.
It's just like, damn, haven't Jews had it bad enough? Like, you're trying to kick the Ethiopians out of the Jewry? Like, that don't make no sense. And the guys are going on and on about, like, oh, well, the DNA. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, not to be a smart side, but if you're going to make like somebody's jewelry based on DNA and you're like an Ashkenazi Jew, then I mean, technically, these Palestinians have like Semitic DNA.
That's right. And that is, she kind of says, well, it's not about the DNA. It's not about the DNA. Like, who cares? But because if it is about the DNA, then Palestinians are more Jewish than you, Ashkenazis. But it is about the DNA. It has to be about the DNA. You have to make it about the DNA because they make it about the DNA. I mean, if you're going to say that God promised us this land, then you have to go, well, what was the promise? Who made the promise? Well, the promise was made to God by God to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob, whose name changed to Israel. And Jacob then had 12 sons. It was the 12 tribes of Israel. So the promise was made to the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 sons of Israel, who would end up inheriting the land. That is the prophecy. Well, the prophecy and the promise was very specific. It was to the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, specifically Jacob, who changed his name to Israel, DNA sons.
Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now, I bet you thought it was going to be a lot crazier than that, right? Now, you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel. But according to Israeli law, the fact that I have Jewish blood gives me more right to somebody's home and land in the land of Palestine than somebody that has been there for hundreds of years. Doesn't make sense.
This TikTok caused a storm online, with many debating what his results, which show no trace of being from Palestine or the Middle East, despite being Jewish, mean.
I'm white. Unseasoned. A Caucasian.
This TikTok caused a storm online, with many debating what his results, which show no trace of being from Palestine or the Middle East, despite being Jewish, mean.
I was told welcome home because I'm Jewish. Every single person who's Jewish that steps off the plane, especially for their first time in Israel, is told welcome home. Let's just sit with that for a second. This right here, this is my actual ancestry. I am 88% Ashkenazi Jewish, and none of my ancestors are from the Middle East.
And we do have DNA tests, which, by the way, are banned in Israel. You're not allowed to get DNA tests in Israel.
Who the hell are you anyway, right? I mean, anyway, I don't care where they came from. I don't care about religion. I don't care about any of the gobbledygook, right? But a bunch of Aryan-looking people that comes from Eastern Europe and pretends that God gave them the land 2,000, 3,000 years ago, right? And oh no, we're the real Jews.
The truth is that, Sephardic Jews, I know this much, that Sephardic Jews and Arabs have incredibly similar DNA, and that the European Ashkenazi Jews like me and Rob have distinct differences from them. And so I just don't think, again, I do not know enough to know this for sure, but I just don't think it's at all scientifically demonstrated that no, these people are the ones who originally come from that land.
Not anybody who just claims to be one of your sons, not an adoptee or a trans son or whatever it was the promise was made to the DNA. So you have to base it off DNA. You have to base it off DNA. And if you're going to make that claim, if you're going to say the land is ours from 3,000 years ago because the promise was made, then you have to do it based on the DNA. Otherwise, the problem is that if they don't make that claim, and so many of them are secular and they don't even believe any of it, but they're using that claim in order to get people to go along with it. But it's what's the other claim? What possible claim do they have beyond God said we're allowed to have this land? Because then there's really no coherent explanation for coming and taking the land. You know, the only explanation they have is it's ours. Well, why is it yours? Because God promised it to us 3,000 years ago, because it's always been ours. Jews have always lived here.
Gonna take Israel, gonna bring white people here, and to tell you these are the Jews, gonna kill you, gonna kill Arabs, gonna mistreat white people like this guy, just to tell you this lie, that you are nobody and we are the Jews with all the history and so on. It has been deleted, your history. You don't know who you are. Don't forget about it. This is why America has been taking your history away, never to find out that it's all about you. I'm telling you this, please. I don't ask you to come to Israel and to start a revolution. I'm just asking you to start thinking this way, to believe me a little bit, because I'm living in Israel and I'm part of this injustice. I really believe that people like me and you, we can bring the justice back.
The amount of crap that's about to come off my floor right now, guys. Oh my God. 3 years worth of brujeria. Yes, you know I gotta scrape all this shit up. I got my sandblaster, my goggles. It's about to go down. Real witches do real things.
What's your thoughts? Please be respectful with your comments. Also, please click the like, click the notification bell, and subscribe to this channel.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14 verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons. For real, and these were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10. These were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10. These were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10.